What's up, guys? So if you followed me for quite a while now, you know that I'm a huge fan of CD Projekt Red. So I think it's time we talked a little bit about Cyberpunk 2077. At least one interesting aspect that I read. CD Projekt Red applied for grants for city creation, animation excellence, cinematic feel, and seamless multiplayer. Kill it. Kill it with fire. In all honesty though, I feel like nowadays gamers are just so precious about games being made. There's just trigger words that people just they completely drop everything and they imagine the worst. One of those words is microtransactions and another one is multiplayer. Multiplayer games have existed since, oh my god, what? Since Doom, since way back then, like Unreal Tournament. I don't know when it was when the word multiplayer was tainted, at least with a specific type of gamer, and I think it's probably the RPG gamer. There are other types of gamers like that focus a lot on first-person shooters and stuff like that, adventure games. They're kind of used to the idea of a game having multiplayer. So I think when the RPG started to incorporate a type of multiplayer, even though again it isn't so new, because I believe there was like, was it Neverwinter Nights or something like that? It had a type of multiplayer. That kind of multiplayer was expected from an MMO RPG, and not so much an RPG. Like an RPG, people want the focus on the single player, and they don't really want to share their experience with other people, especially when you know that companies, they're not expanding their work, their employees possibly. Like maybe if they still have the same teams working on single player and multiplayer, it's like that's kind of taking away some kind of manpower from the single player. Manpower. We're losing manpower, Captain. But the really interesting thing about this grant application, I was like, a grant? Like this kind of thing was really weird to me, because in the United States, like applying for a video game grant is like you could just sit there and laugh for hours, because it's like, yeah, no. Poland, they have this this program called the Game In. The government wants to support innovation and wants to support creation, and instead of having it be like their industry, any kind of industry, be more of an imitative type of government or a type of industry where they're just taking what other countries are doing and just creating the Polish version. They really, really want to encourage innovation, new things to make Poland stand out as themselves. So basically, the National Center for Research and Development, or the NCBR, announced this competition to support the development and innovativeness of the Polish industry. Supporting Polish producers of video games, Game In program was created at the request of the Polish Video Games Agreement, represented by CD Projekt. Poland has the potential to join the world champions of innovation. It is thus worth focusing on the development of strong players such as companies from the steel sector or the video game industry. NCBR not only supports innovators, but most of all gives them the tools that will strengthen their positions and make them key playmakers internationally. So CD Projekt Red was granted 7 million in research grants for these applications that they mentioned. So since CD Projekt Red is not owned really by a publisher, it's CD Projekt Red under CD Projekt, and CD Projekt is being supported by the government. So I think that's what makes them stand out, is because they still have that autonomy, they still have that freedom as developers to decide what works and what's not going to work, and how they put the money to use. CD Projekt Red has already come out and said, yes, they confirmed, we are looking into this stuff. They've said in many interviews that gamers have nothing to worry about when it comes to what it will take away from the single player, because it won't. When thinking Cyberpunk 2077, think nothing less than The Witcher 3. Huge single player, open world, story driven RPG. No hidden catch. You get what you pay for. No BS. Just honest gaming like with Wild Hunt. We leave greed to others. We are known for storytelling and big game worlds, and so we're taking all what we've learned from previous 3 Witcher games, as well as the open world aspect, and applying it to Cyberpunk 2077. So yes, it is an all-out RPG game, but we're looking at having a lot of new gameplay elements that I cannot talk about yet. One thing I can say for sure is that it is definitely not a multiplayer shooter. It also makes so much sense when you think of what Cyberpunk 2077 was. Cyberpunk 2077 was a pen and paper RPG. It was meant to be played with other players. We also know that Cyberpunk 2077, the game, is you're going to be able to print your character sheet. What if they find a way of like almost creating this virtual pen and paper type of experience? I've never doubted CD Projekt Red, and one of the reasons is because I was following The Witcher 3, early in production when they first announced it in E3. This was like maybe 4 years before it was released. Everything that they showed was exactly what we saw in Witcher 3. So when they say something, they mean it. Multiplayer aspects don't always mean that it's gonna affect the game. In some cases, possibly, especially when you are forced to play the multiplayer. CD Projekt never forces you with anything. A lot of the add-ons that they had for The Witcher were all free. They were all cosmetic. The 2 big expansions were paid, but they were like mini games. Like seriously, they were like, one of them was like 30 hours long and the other one was like 15 hours. It was like, you are going to be a cheapskate if you want that for free. So I don't think we have anything to worry about when it comes to Cyberpunk 2077 and the possibility of there being a multiplayer aspect to the game. And also just think of what this game was before. It was a tabletop RPG. Their Gwent game is online. It is multiplayer, and they also had their board game, the Witcher board game. So they have that experience. And when they do make a game that is online or multiplayer, they're very connected with the community. But it is cool to know that they're focusing more on the single player. So that's pretty much it. I am going to be talking more about Cyberpunk 2077. I had enough to talk about the multiplayer on its own, but I do have other things that I want to talk about when it comes to Cyberpunk, because there's quite a bit of information. So let me know in the comments down below, what are some interesting ways that you think CD Projekt Red could incorporate a multiplayer for a game like this, for a game like Cyberpunk. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.